Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Just Enough Heshy Show. And I want you to know, everybody, this was a great week, a wonderful week. And before I continue, of course, I have to introduce my wonderful co-host, Ezra Levy, attorney at law. How are you, Ezra?
I'm doing great. How are you, Heshy?
You know, tonight is Lag BaOmer. It's a Jewish holiday. That what happened?
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai passed away, so we're commemorating his yahrzeit.
Oh, that's it. I thought it was because of all the people stopped dying.
They stopped dying also.
The pandemic was over.
24,000 rabbis passed away.
But the pandemic, there was also a pandemic.
There was a pandemic of 24,000 rabbis who passed away.
And it all ended tonight.
Correct, or tomorrow.
So I'm telling you, even though I believe the pandemic is starting because I hear Bill de Blasio wants to come back to run for Congress to represent, you know who? Not the city, the Jews.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
he wants to represent the Jews. They're like, and you know what? I know you're going to get angry.
People are going to vote for him.
And the Jews, you know, Penny Ringel, who I'm running against for as district leader, is running around raising him money and getting him support.
Of course. Well,
please explain it to me. And you're going to vote for him, but not vote for me. You guys know that I got on the ballot for district leader. I now have to rerun for signatures for state senate. And all you people, all your politicians that I went to a big event Sunday, all of the politicians, they sat around, they were all nervous when they came in, like I was going to freak out, but you know, I behaved myself. I was quiet. And I got some free pizza and breakfast. And I did some videos. No egg rolls.
Oh, okay.
But Jacob, here's the deal. Why isn't any of these politicians putting up anybody to run against de Blasio? Instead, they're going to let him represent us and don't think what his wife stole $1.5 billion.
Yes.
In Congress, there's not $1 billion, not 90 billion, not 200 billion. There are trillions of dollars which he can smuggle away, lots of billions of dollars that nobody knows about.
I'm pretty sure if de Blasio runs, somebody's going to wake up and run against him because that's like giving up a seat.
But you're running against a no-name, so when somebody comes, there's going to be 10 people running against him. So with this,
he might lose to no name. He was that bad as a mayor.
No, that's the problem. He won. He was a bad advocate. He was a bad city council.
It was terrible. It was a terrible mayor.
The first time, and they voted him again the second time. Remember, he's running in a district now, a new district that is more liberal, leftist. A lot of I don't mean to say anything bad, but the gays and the leftist, and it's a lot of upper Manhattan people part of that district too. So they're going to go with the left movement, and de Blasio just gives in everything they want.
It's not that clear because right now, the way they redrew the maps, you're going to have a lot of incumbents being pitted against each other. So that people are going to start moving districts.
But that's Nadler, and thank God we got rid of Nadler.
Nadler and Maloney are running against each other.
Right.
In Brooklyn, you're going to have, I think it's Jeffrey and Hakeem Jeffrey and Yvette Clark.
Which is great.
And then in Westchester. I
like Yvette Clark, by the way. I met her at the event.
I think she's that's my future district when I move, if I ever get to move.
This is like crazy lines.
And then in
Manhattan, Staten Island, and Brooklyn. I don't understand.
Staten Island, Maliotakis is going to get her seat.
It doesn't make a difference, but you have to. A district means a group of community.
Yes, but the thing is,
you can't have 20 different areas.
Well, the thing is, New York lost. I think they lost 2 congressional seats.
1 or 2. I think it was 1.
Was it one only?
1, yeah.
So we lost at least 1. I know we lost 1. I thought maybe 2.
Maybe 2. I know for sure we lost 1.
Hopefully, and if we keep going at this, by the next census, we'll lose another 5. But I mean, we keep losing the seats, and then we have to redistrict. I mean, it's not like every county gets their own congressional representative.
Well, I don't understand that we're going to let de Blasio.
But there's also a good race actually now in Westchester because Mondaire Jones is like one of these big progressive lowlifes.
Right.
He's going to be up against Jamal Bowen.
And look how sloppy the Board of Elections and what they did. The millions of dollars that are going to be a run on this stupid election, you're going to see machines break or whatever. We're going to spend millions of dollars. Now we don't have one primary. We have 2 primaries. So the tens of millions of dollars.
That's not because of the Board of Elections. That's because the state Senate and
the politicians.
It's the politicians in Albany decided that the fact that we had 2 referendums and that that became part of the state constitution that you have to have a nonpartisan districting, redistricting
but they
commission.
did it themselves illegally.
They did it illegally, and they got caught.
And here's the worst part: lawyers, more lawyers, and you know who pays for all these lawyers?
You and I.
The state. None of them come out of their own pockets. And the judge rules, and he doesn't care because he gets paid by the state too.
But there's a very big motivation to have at least some primaries on June 28th, and that's to keep Andrew Cuomo off the Democratic ballot.
That would be good. Now, and
Because if he might run as an independent, but if you wait
no,
until
you
August,
have to get signatures
Right.
now on May 21st. If you're not ready for signatures, you're screwed.
right? But if this is for the June 28th
No,
ballot.
that's for the August
28th. But he could run as an independent.
But for
Without a
August
ballot,
28th. But
right.
you still have to collect signatures now on May 21st.
But the thing is, if they put everything in August, which was the original plan, then Como would have been forced basically to run as a Democrat.
right. So
And Hochul did not want that.
all I know is that's another losing issue over there. All I know is the June 23rd is a problem or June 28th because a
Right.
lot of people are going to be on vacation. And again,
But they'll be on vacation at the beginning of
I know
September
that.
also.
No.
It's Yom Tov.
August 23rd, you're making a mistake.
August 23rd. It's also
Because
right away.
most people come back from the country already in the, August 21,
No, not
August
this year.
22. Yeah.
Not this year because Rosh Hashanah is all the way in the.
So people are going to stay for Labor Day away in the
Possibly.
country? No, schools start early. Labor
some
Day.
do, some don't.
All I know is I hope they come out to vote. I'm going to be collecting signatures next week to get back on the state Senate seat. Come on out, sign my papers. I need volunteers. Anyways, we're going to do a quick commercial, and my commercial is very simple. It's called Plaza Auto Leasing. Do you know about Plaza Auto Leasing, my dear friend?
Yes, I do.
I love it.
You love your car that you got.
I do it.
There
I still
you
do.
go.
It's you know what? You think it's a joke? I'm able to open it.
No, I've been in your
start
car.
it,
I've been in your car.
and it's big,
very nice.
but very
It's a very nice
comfortable,
car.
and I got a great price. Plaza Auto Leasing. They're not only a leasing company, but they're also a dealership. You can get the best of both worlds. The flexibility to lease or buy any vehicle make or model combined with quick service, huge inventory, and easy approvals. There's no finance manager to meet, just a friendly pal sales representative that can handle most of the transactions from start to finish without you even having to step a foot in their offices. All you have to do is place your order and they will even deliver your car right to your door. What are you waiting for? Become a pal and call Plaza Auto Leasing. You can reach Plaza Auto Leasing at 718-975-9000. 718-975-9000. 718-975-9000.
975 There you go.
can also check out their website at www.plazaautoleasing.com, located at 2750 Nostrand Avenue on the corner of Avenue N and Nostrand Avenue. Again, call 718-975-9000. Become a pal today, and don't forget to tell them Uncle Heshy sent you. Really, they're very, very cool, and I like them. By the way, in any minute on the show, I don't know what time it is, but he should be here any minute. I hope he should be outside already. We're bringing in a very nice man called Sammy Steigman. I met him at the Greek Jewish Festival, which I told you to come as. It was wonderful. No, really. There are Jewish Greek festival.
Yes.
And I want you to know, I met him, Sammy there. He's a Holocaust survivor. He's going to tell us his whole story. Wow. He's a real survivor. You're going to meet a guy that was in the concentration camps, who lost many relatives, was, and I'm ashamed to say, was experimented on as a year and a half old. But they experimented on it.
I
And they didn't want to give him money till like 2004 for the experiments. They finally gave him some compensation, some pennies. They gave him like $2,000-3,000 for a compensation, but it was the vindication of his story that he got some compensation. But you know, I want to tell you guys before Sammy walks in here. I was so proud to go to the Greek festival, and it's my second year. When the German Nazis came for the Greek Jews, the Greeks hid most of their Jews. They were one of the least Jews to be sent to the concentration camps because they were just good. I mean, the Greeks, I couldn't believe it.
I could tell you a similar story. When I was in college, I went for an archaeological dig in Bulgaria for a summer. And when they found out I was Jewish, they all came to me and goes, we saved our Jews. In Bulgaria, the government was ready to turn them over. The people revolted. So there's always some good people.
Right. There's always the what do you call the righteous,
the righteous
upon what's it called, the righteous of the nations.
Yes, the righteous of the nations.
So those people, I got that. We always had that
I'm
in
saying
every country.
This was a whole country of Bulgaria.
Okay, right. Hungary, no. My father, they gave him
Bulgaria,
up.
Hungary, they gave him up.
They
France,
gave him.
France, they've surrendered and
I don't even
participated.
understand that. That was like the worst of the worst. France.
My wife's uncle lost his grandparents there.
Wow.
Syrian Jews who are...
but I like France, but it bothers me. Anyways, we're going to do a quick quote. And this quote basically is because of our guest, Sammy, tonight. And here it goes. Action is the only remedy to indifference. We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Sometimes we must interfere when human lives are in danger, when human dignity is in jeopardy. National borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Whenever men or women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place at that moment becomes the center of the universe. And you know who said that? Eli Wiesel. And guys, you cannot understand. Now, when people scream at me and tell me, Heshy, why do you get up? Why do you scream? Because I don't want a guy like de Blasio back. I don't want the oppressors to fight. If we stand silent and quiet, I was talking to our councilman, and he got angry at me. He says, Heshy, I like you. I'm trying to make peace with the councilman because of you, Ezra. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Telling me. So I'm trying to make peace, and I'm trying to calm down and trying to behave. And I said to Carmen, I said, why didn't you really help me? He says, Heshy, I was angry at you because when they came in the health department and started screaming and embarrassing the Jews, you went and screamed and made us look bad. I said, but if I wouldn't have stopped them, they would have made us look worse, and we would have had more issues against us. And they would have had more mandates, more fines. I stopped them. I threw them out of the community like I do to many inspectors. He says, I would have had hearings. So what does a hearing do? Right now there's an inspector running around Borough Park, and people don't stop him. I stop him. And he's a Jewish guy. He goes from place to place, knocking people down and torturing them. I have an inspector yesterday. He just walked into the site and just tortured these poor people. Every line, every inch, and we showed him he's wrong. I want a letter. I said, what letter? We followed every rule and regulation you wanted. There are some people just hate. They're oppressors, and you stand up, and I fight and stand up for you. So yes, election season's coming. Anyways, let me tell you a funny joke, and this, Ezra, you're going to have a good laugh with. Are you ready?
Go ahead. Let's see.
So what happened was we had a friend going through a matrimonial divorce. A wonderful lady, but a tough lady, and her husband had money with her, and she came over to me, Heshy, I need help. I said, okay, fine. I have a good divorce lawyer for you. We'll talk to him. We'll tell him what happens. And I knew both sides, and like I was in the middle, but I wasn't quiet. I knew they were having issues. It was bad, but it wasn't like really bad, but it was bad. Anyways, we get the lawyer, we talk, and finally she asks me to make sure to go with the lawyer to make sure everything is good. So we go to meet with the husband lawyer. Everybody knows me. And we make a beautiful deal. And I want you to know this deal was fair to both sides. We succeeded in making a settlement that she and her husband eminently are fair to both sides. And you know what she tells me? She says to me, fair to both, I could have done that myself. What's the point of hiring you guys and a lawyer? I said, oh my God, what craziness she is.
It's actually good.
What?
It's actually funny.
You see, this was a funny joke, right? But it really happened. I couldn't believe it. We are now, Sammy Steigman has just joined us. We spoke about you a little bit, Sammy, that you joined us. Sammy, again, is a Holocaust survivor. You missed my joke, Sammy. I make a very funny joke at the beginning of every show.
I love jokes.
But you missed it. At least you're laughing, because usually they don't laugh at my jokes. I'm so happy that you're laughing. But Sammy Steigman, he lives in Manhattan. He's a Holocaust survivor. I'm going to tell you quickly about him before we get questions. And Ezra, I want you to talk to this man, because I fell in love with him right away at the Greek festival. And Sammy's life story is just remarkable. He was born in 1939. He was born in a town called, what is it, Chernovitz in Bukovina, right?
Bukovina.
Which country now?
Well, I tell the kids that I was officially born in 3 different countries. So as it changed borders.
Right.
Okay, so right now it's Ukraine.
Ukraine. Oh my gosh. That means you would be part of that war over there, right?
Yes.
Wow, you're so, wow, you never stop. Anyways, you were in a labor camp called, one more thing, Transnistria?
Transnistria, that was an area where they had many, many camps. Mm-hmm. The camp where I was with my parents, that was Mogilev Podolsk.
How far, may I ask you, was this from Poland or Auschwitz? All around the same places, or I mean, was
well, Ukraine is very close to Poland,
right?
Okay, to Romania. Let's put it this way: have you heard of Galicia,
yes,
Bukovina, and Bessarabia?
Sure.
Okay, so every time that if I meet somebody from Galicia, I say "Oy vey." somebody from Bessarabia, from Romania, meets me. So he says,
Sammy,
"Oh,
we're gonna want to hear your story, but I want to ask you, for my audience and for the listeners, especially the younger ones, I want to ask you, and I know me and you spoke before. You don't want to make people cry. You don't want people to be sad, even though I want them to know what happened, because my father, and I'm going to repeat it over and over again, lost 7 brothers and sisters. 2 of them survived. One of them couldn't have children. The sister, they had the numbers because they did operation. And the reason I say that is because Sammy's sitting over here. When it was a year and a half old, if I'm correct, they experimented on you.
I don't know exactly
What they did,
Yeah.
but they did things to you that whatever. No matter what, they shouldn't have done anything to you.
Correct.
But Sammy, when you were liberated, when you got out, how old were you?
I was not even 4 years old.
Wow.
Do you remember?
Absolutely nothing. And for me, it's a blessing in disguise.
But you don't remember people. I mean, you don't remember seeing death, or
No.
But your parents told you about it.
Nope.
They didn't even tell you about it.
Nope. The only thing that I knew from my parents is that from my father's side, from 42 people, only 2 survived.
Out of 42 people, 42 people, 2 survived.
Correct. So it was only my father and my uncle. But my uncle was not a survivor. He was a refugee in one of the only 3 countries that officially accepted Jewish refugees: Dominican Republic,
Right.
China, and Philippines. So my uncle was a refugee in Shanghai.
Wow. You know, I was telling.
He did make it to Shanghai?
He made it to Shanghai. His
Yeah,
uncle.
wow.
I was telling Ezra that the Greek, where I met you at the Greek Jewish Festival,
Yes.
was a wonderful festival, which has the oldest synagogue in the United States, or one of the oldest synagogues, at least
In the Western Hemisphere.
in the Western Hemisphere. It's
the
a
Romaniote.
and it's a very nice synagogue, very cute, and they keep it very. It's Orthodox. You know that?
Yes.
I didn't know that. An Orthodox synagogue on the Lower East Side. The
I thought that was a Portuguese one, wasn't
no,
it?
no, it's Greek.
It's Greek.
And the Greek Jews was saved by their Greek neighbors. Most of them got away. They hid them or smuggled them out of the country. Not like the Hungarians and the Polish and other ones who turned over our Jews and were happy to torture us and beat us. You have brothers and sisters, right?
I have a sister, but we are not in touch.
But-
I have a son. I have 2 grandchildren. I'm not in touch, but I talk about it. The reason is I don't want the kids to feel sorry for me, but I just explained to them how I overcame it to remain a happy person and everything else. So I want them to be sure that under no circumstances, using me as an example, they should never give up, never lose hope.
Sammy, you are, may I ask how old you are, even though I told everybody 1939. How old are you?
82.
You're beautiful.
Yeah,
You are.
as a matter of fact, on December 21, I will have my second bar mitzvah.
Wow, 83. Now, Sammy, I know
Actually,
you.
December 21st means a lot to me. It's my father's birthday, my wife's grandfather's birthday.
But I know that you've suffered in your life with headaches and other issues of bodily problems. A lot of people can't even make it to 50, 60 with issues or other things. You are 83 years old. You've suffered a life of family members that were depressed. You've seen a lot of other issues in your life. Why didn't you give up? Why didn't you just say, this is just crazy? And now I know you grew up in an Orthodox family, and now you're not Orthodox. Man, I mean, don't get angry, but why?
I am not getting
I know
angry.
you're
I'm
not,
very
but I
open.
am Orthodox, and
Yes.
I have no pride. And I grew up in a family where I heard my father cry at night, even though he was a powerful man. And look, he died at 60, and I'm so proud of you. Look how you made it. I mean, I know you went through pain, but I'm so
I
happy.
still do.
I know, but I'm happy you're with us. I'm so proud that a Jewish man like you made it. You are our inspiration, that when we cry and when we cry about stupidity, we look at you and we should shut up. Why aren't you religious anymore? You must believe in God.
I do believe in God. Okay, it's everything is bashert. There are certain things that happen in my life.
Bashert means destiny, right?
Destiny or meant to be.
Meant to be. Go ahead.
Okay, in Yiddish. And things have happened since I started to speak in such a rapid succession.
Oh yeah, tell us, where do you speak?
I start with 4th graders, although I spoke to 3rd graders and one time to 2nd graders. I am speaking to schools, universities, synagogues, churches, Chabad. As a matter of fact, I just came from Kentucky, northern Kentucky, in Cincinnati, and a high school student arranged for me in 4 days to speak in 8 different schools.
Wow.
17 different presentations.
Wow.
Okay, to visit 2 museums.
All Jews or not Jews?
No, not Jews.
not
Okay. Northern Kentucky, it's the student that invited me, he was the only Jewish student there.
You know that Kentucky after in the mid 50s and 40s was very religious, a big time Jewish community.
Actually, I think right now
But not in northern Kentucky.
Right.
Not
No,
in
whatever.
northern
But to me,
Right.
Kentucky, I don't really care. You know, anybody outside the 5 boroughs, maybe Jersey, I don't really care about. Florida, I do like Florida.
No, but I heard that.
You know why? Because of Messi, my friend Christopher Messi.
By the way, no, I think in Louisville yesterday they had Kentucky had their primaries yesterday. Louisville, actually, the Democrat nominee for the mayoralty is a Jew. So
Wow,
he's Jewish. So
okay.
yeah.
You know something? My personal opinion, sometimes it's better not to have a Jew.
I agree with you. I agree.
Because they
Except for
will
Heshy.
go all
No.
the way.
The other way. I agree with you.
You know what?
I-
My son. Your country, where you were born. I'm going to ask you a question. You were born. Is Ukraine now? This guy Zelensky is the president. He's a Jew. What do you think of him?
You really want to hear my opinion?
Yeah.
Because my opinion is different than most of the people.
No, it's not. Go ahead. I want to hear it.
Okay, but I teach the young people about tolerance.
That's okay.
And tolerance is respect for oneself, for other people, other people's opinion,
Right.
other people's culture. First of all, I grew up in a communist country. Obviously, I know a little bit about dictatorship, about people like Putin. Putin will not give in. Okay? Concessions have to be made to him. Okay? For instance, Crimea, okay, to make sure that he will not be part of the
But he had
NATO.
Crimea.
But it's not official. Okay? Okay, he has to agree that this is part of Russia. Okay? He has to agree that I don't understand the West and NATO, why they are trying to bring in Ukraine to NATO. We have to remember what happened during the Cuban crisis. Kennedy could not afford to have a nuclear power at our doorstep. Putin cannot afford to have NATO at his doorstep, a nuclear power. So basically, why the West is trying to bring Ukraine to NATO, I have no idea.
So what
I
is
agree,
it?
but I-
What is
I-
your
one
deal
second.
with
The other
Zelensky?
thing-
Sammy, I
other
agree
thing-
with you, except for one thing. Right before the war started, everybody said that's not going to happen. NATO said we're not. U.S. made it very clear that they're not going to endorse NATO coming into the.
I know that, but they are trying to entice them. Okay. The other thing is what happened is why the West and different European countries are providing them the Ukrainians with military, with arms. That's prolonging the war. He's not going to win against the Russians. The Russians are not going to occupy Ukraine. Okay, in the meantime, by fighting the Russians, keeping fighting the Russians, a lot of innocent people will die.
That I agree with you.
Okay,
that I agree.
the other thing that I have a problem with is let's not have a debate whether Zelensky is Jewish or not Jewish.
But he does
Okay.
say he's Jewish.
So he is Jewish,
He
but the
said-
problem is Ukraine's full of a bunch of neo-Nazis.
So, but he is their
but he's not
president.
Jewish.
Okay, but Ukraine's full of neo-Nazis. Is that correct?
Correct. Well,
About
the
20%.
Ukrainians-
About
he
20% of their army is
The
neo-Nazis.
Ukrainians were worse. Even the Germans. Even the
Well,
Germans.
I want to hear this. I want to hear
No,
this.
he's right. He's right. I'll tell you something. My 8-year-old son, when we talked about the war, he says, "Why are we supporting the Ukraine? They spilled so much Jewish blood."
Yes.
That's
Now,
what my 8-year-old son.
But what I want to say about Zelensky, let's agree that he's Jewish. Okay, let's not have a debate about it. But as a Jew, okay, knowing what Ukraine did in World War II, for him, the leader of a country, not admitting, okay, the role of Ukraine during the Nazi regime, just completely baffles.
But he
The
he does refer to the Nazis all the time. Like he
Right.
does say that the Russians are like the Nazis.
And the other thing, which is also very disturbing, when he made a comparison, what's happening in Ukraine with Holocaust, he is trivializing
The Holocaust.
the Holocaust.
I think you made a very good point because I'm obviously a little younger than both of you. So many people compare everything. People use the word Holocaust, Nazi, all these words so cheaply, and to me,
There
it just
are
cheap.
no Nazis anywhere in the world.
Correct, and
There are people of today that believe in the Nazi ideology. So we have to use the word neo-Nazi. When you use the word Nazi, you're talking about the past.
No, I guess
when
my
you're
que- no, but
using the neo-Nazi, you're talking about the present.
you act like an animal. You're a Nazi.
no, you're
and-
not because it cheapens
No.
what the Nazis did. I think that's what Sammy's
doesn't
trying to say.
cheapen. When somebody hurts another human being, look at Sammy. Not that you just scream at him. You touched my friend. You made this man suffer. I mean, look at him. He led a life. He got married. He went to Israel. We're going to talk about his personal story in a minute. This man went and built himself. He came. Look at him. He's sitting in front of us. You're going to hear his story. I'm proud of him. These people that think they're going to take away or hurt him, you ever go near Sammy, you'll see how he fights for it. We're going to do a quick commercial if you don't mind. And this is going to be a cool commercial. I want you to hear this commercial because you're going to love this. This commercial is about the guy sitting right next to you. Would you like to hear the commercial? It is
Go ahead.
called Ezra Levy, attorney at law. He's a lawyer, by the way.
Forgive me, sir.
Don't worry about it.
I'm not charging you anything.
He takes me out of jail all the time, Sammy, when I get arrested. Ezra Levy, specializing in all criminal matters, including weapons possession, oh God, drug offenses, domestic violence, theft possessions, assaults, DWIs, and criminal and family court orders of protection. And yes, he protects Heshy every time somebody comes after him. 917-755-1187. 917-755-1187. Now watch this. I'm not going to mess this up. Ezra Levy Law Firm at gmail.com.
Hey, funny. After all these years.
EZRALEYLEWFIRM at gmail.com. Call Ezra Levy. He's serious. He's helping with a lot of my kids, my clients, drug offenses. 917-755-1187. What's your phone number, Ezra?
917-755-1187. That number I remembered.
I love you. I tried to have him do it. Ezra, you're wonderful. And I want you to know, guys, Ezra, you're a good boy. You've done so much good. I mean, he might say he's younger than us. He has more wisdom than me, and I'm proud of him. And Ezra, what you helped me in court, you're gonna have to come back again when
God, help me.
Okay, we're gonna go back to you for a second, and I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You now. And your father and mother and your family just suffered the Holocaust. You went through a bad time. Why would your father go back? And don't get me wrong, my father did the same mistake. He went back to Hungary and quickly had to run away. And my father was a soldier in the Hungarian army, had to run away. Why would your parents go back to Romania or Ukraine or wherever you came from after what they did to your family? I know you can't understand that, but what was their thinking? They could have gone, like you said, to Israel or to America. They could have done so, and you had nothing anyways, right? You went back to nothing.
The interesting part is that unlike my mother and myself, that we were born in Bukovina.
By the way, your parents...
Regina, that was my mother, her name, Regina. My father's
my
name.
mother was Regina, by the way.
Right. And my
What was
father's
her
name was
Hebrew name?
Nathan.
What was your mother's-
Ruchzi.
How long did your parents live after the...
My mother, 83. My father, 92.
Wow.
Wow, good for you.
They won.
Yes.
They won.
Were they again?
But each survivor reacted differently through the trauma that they went through.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother had fits of depression. My father was, when I started to speak only in 2008, I did some research and whatever it is, I started calling him benevolent dictator. But he was a loving person, but he was unforgiving. He would be your best friend, but cross him one time, that was the end of it.
Wow.
My father was an orphan of both of his parents. My grandfather died before he was born, unable to take care of 8 children.
Wow.
There was no income coming in. My grandmother decided to take the 2 youngest one and commit suicide.
Oh no!
A stranger saved the children, but my grandmother did commit suicide. So my father grew up in an orphanage in Vienna, and at age 13, he was let go. So that helped him, during the war. He became streetwise. It became after the war when there was not enough
How many
food.
brothers and sisters did you have?
I just one sister. She lives in England.
And she survived as well.
No. She is just a child of Holocaust survivor. She was born in 1946.
Right after the war.
Right. Now, what happened is my father was born in Romania proper. So we were deported by the Romanians because in 1941, June 22nd, okay, when the Wehrmacht attacked former Soviet Union.
What's the
them-
Wehrmacht? What's the Wehrmacht?
The
mean?
German military.
Okay, just want to make sure. Go ahead, yeah.
Right? Behind them were the special killing groups called Einsatzgruppen.
Oh, God.
Einsatzgruppen. And behind them were the Romanians. And they annexed, not occupied, they annexed, okay, Bukovina, Bessarabia, and Transnistria. So that became part of the greater Romania. And that's why we were deported by the Romanians and not by the Germans. However, in 1944, when those areas were liberated by the Soviets, okay, that became again part of the USSR. So in 1946, the Romanian government allowed a small group of Jews to repatriate. So my father, being an anti-communist, he chose the lesser of the two evil, and for whatever reason, he settled in a small town in Transylvania, where I grew up. But the other interesting part is I want to talk a little bit about my mother. My mother was an uneducated woman. My grandfather had a store, did not allow her to go to school. She had to stay home.
Because they were Orthodox religious.
No, because she had to stay home to help provide for the family.
But were your parents Orthodox?
Yes. Well, in those days, there was nothing in between. Either you were Orthodox, okay, or you were secular. There was nothing like today.
Now, when your parents immigrated to America or what other countries, did they stay Orthodox or they were not Orthodox when they came here?
My parents never came here. My parents stayed in Israel.
Oh, but say in Israel,
I came here
Did
to
they, when you immigrated to Israel, did they stay somewhat religious?
My mother was more than my father. Okay.
But still, whether they,
But still, I wouldn't say they tried.
They tried.
Let's put it that way. And what I wanted to tell about my mother, although she was an uneducated woman, and she was also abused by her stepmother, boy, did she have a heart of gold. And I took my sensitivity from my mother and my confidence from my father.
Wow.
Very good. But your mother suffered, you said, through depression.
Yes.
Explain that a little bit to me. I mean, did it make you, did she take it out? I mean, how did your father deal with it? I mean, how could you go home to a depressed... back then, they didn't have medicines and psychiatric evaluations like they have today.
Well, I'll just give you an episode to understand. Later in life, okay, my mother went with my father to a psychiatrist. And I don't know what the psychiatrist said. And my mother started crying. And my father said, stop crying. In those days, that was a stigma. To go to psychiatrists, that was a stigma. It's not like today. People did not feel comfortable to go for therapy.
I know.
They had to deal on their own. My father, until I would say when he became about late 80s or something, my father was extremely loving towards my mother. At the end, he became a little bit less patient. Let's put it that way.
When did you leave Romania to go to Israel?
Well, my father applied to go to Israel in 1949. But living in a communist country, you know what's happening.
Right.
It took us until 1961.
Wow.
Wow, 12 years to get there.
But you were in Romania. You were considered Romanian at the time. You weren't part of the USSR,
yes.
right?
As a matter in Romania. As a matter of fact, my father had a friend in the Romanian KGB, Securitate, okay? And he told them, start packing in 1959. There was a crisis in Cuba. Fidel Castro came to power. What it had to do with us leaving Romania, I have no idea. But we were on our luggage for 2 years.
So how old were you when you went to Israel? How old were you?
I was almost 21.
So you're 21, You have no idea of the language of Israel, right? Yeah.
No.
You get there with no money.
Correct.
Where you going to live? I mean, they gave you an apartment or?
But we came to a very to a developing town. It's still developing even now.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you heard of Kiryat Malachi. And my father, he knew how to get around.
Right.
Okay, and 1 year later we went and we lived in Hulon.
Hold on, my family, my father's family was there for a long time. My grandparents lived
And
there.
is that where you met your wife?
No, my wife, I met her here in Milwaukee.
Oh,
Wisconsin.
is she American or has some kind of a history? What's her?
Well, she's Canadian. Her father was an Orthodox rabbi.
Wow.
Okay, he had a congregation in
Canada.
Canada. Okay,
But you didn't live in Canada. You stayed here in America.
we stayed here.
So now
America.
you're in Israel. How many years were you there?
Well, I was there from 61 to 68. Okay, and then after my divorce, 83, 88, I went back. Never intended to come back.
May I ask you a question? But you're skipping. You had to join the Israeli. You were in the Air Force, if I'm correct.
Correct.
So
Okay,
you had
62, 65. Now,
Wait a minute. You get to Israel. You don't know how to speak Hebrew. You have no idea what the country's about. You're 21, and right away you joined the Israeli army. Hi, how are you? I mean, who are you? I mean, they did that to you. They can do that.
no, they didn't do it. I volunteered. If somebody was not accepted in the military, they would do everything possible, okay, to join the military. It was a stigma if you did not join the military. But I was very proud when I came to Israel. The first memory that I have, the pride that I felt when I saw, okay, a Jewish policeman.
Oh, wow.
We were always under different
Right.
countries, different authorities, and everything else. And here it is, a Jewish policeman.
I love Jewish mailmen. It makes me cry. But now you're in Israel, and people don't understand. Back then, Jerusalem was not part of Israel. The New Jerusalem was, but the old Jerusalem wasn't. Jerusalem was split in half. The old city where all
Correct.
the holy sites were. You couldn't go to the old city. Am I correct? There was no way for you to go.
I couldn't go, but since I did not speak Hebrew, I did not check at the signs, and I was in the no man's zone.
But
And half an hour later, 4 Israelis were caught.
Oh, really?
By the Germans.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And what happened to them when you were caught on the wrong side of? They let you go home.
No, nobody saw me, and I came back. I didn't know where I am.
But so you were there. You were there in the '67 war when
Yes.
they conquered the old Jerusalem. Tell us about it, because I got to hear this. You were there when they took over the old city.
Well, it was the pride and everything else, but I was in the Air Force. In the Air Force, if you survive the first 30, 40 minutes, okay, you are basically a worker in the uniform. Okay, so I was not a foot soldier or whatever it is.
But the country itself was
the
proud.
country said, "Oh, that
You
was."
must have gone. Did you run to go visit the old city right away?
No,
Actually,
No.
I could say I'm
No.
proud to say my uncle was one of the Kopshaya. He was a paratrooper during the 6th Day War. And he was one of the Kopshaya of the old city.
Well, all I know is I was there in '69, and even as a 6-year-old kid, I was so excited to be in the
Yes.
Holy Land, climbing
Yes.
over garbage, standing. I still have my picture of standing. I should have posted it. Standing at the kotel praying. I still shake when I go to Israel now, standing at that holy wall. It makes me crazy because it's really one of my good memories of my father and mother holding my hand and the electricity filling between the two of them. They were survivors. I mean, my mother was escaping during the war. She wasn't caught. She only lost 2. And I felt their love and electricity, even though I knew my father he wasn't depressed. He had bad memories.
Yes.
And I want you to know my grandfather that was killed on Monday night is his yahrzeit. That is the day of remembrance of when he passed away. Now we don't know exactly when he died because he was in Auschwitz. They took him, so they pick a date.
That's usually the date the city was
It
captured.
captured us up. So with this, my family picked this particular date. It's like a day or two around where the city
Right.
was, because they said this is the date that they saw him transported.
Right, when they were
or got
deported.
all that, right.
Right.
So they picked a date for him. So we're going to observe it. After they say you don't have to observe it, the grandchildren or 50 years later, but my father did it for each of his family members. Ceremoniously, as very serious. So I used to bring up my father's memory. I do it, and remember, I'm doing it for my father who
Right,
passed
of
away
course.
45 years ago.
By the way, at home we had a kosher home.
You had a kosher.
Yes,
when you
I
got
remember for Pesach and everything else, the whole week. Okay.
when you got married, did you have a Jewish wedding? I mean, she was Jewish.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So you
of course.
followed the whole Orthodox.
We got married in Jerusalem.
Woman, you came to the United States. You met the girl here in Milwaukee. You flew back to Israel to get married?
Yes, my parents lived there.
Okay.
That's it.
Makes sense. I
That
guess
makes
so.
a lot of sense.
So, and did you
My
live,
parents did just the opposite. They met here.
did you live did you live in Israel at all, or you came right away back?
We came back.
And what did you so now you're here, you just finally figured out how to speak Hebrew. When did you come to America, by the way?
68.
68. So you finally figured out how to speak Hebrew. You did your time. You flew to a new country. You can't speak English well. I mean, what's going on with you here now? What'd you do over here?
Well, I learned English. You will be surprised. Okay. They did not want me to be in the school because I had an affinity for the languages. Okay. and
How
they
many
said,
languages do you speak?
Now, nothing. Just English and half Hebrew. But I was fluent in 9 languages.
9 languages.
So, but interestingly enough, I learned English from commercials.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
Oh my God. So you know what? 2 whole beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and sesame seed, but you're from my generation. What is that? What is that on your jacket, if you don't mind me asking?
Here?
Yeah.
Be upstander. Be an upstander.
What is that? What is that?
Well, all the tragedies in the world have happened because the world stood by and did nothing. And I teach the young kids not to be a perpetrator. Okay, a perpetrator is somebody that hurt somebody else, okay, intentionally and repeatedly. So if you see injustice and you don't do anything about it, you are a bystander. You are, whether you know it or not, part of the problem. I want all of the kids, okay, to become upstanders and be part of the solution. Our future are the children. Okay, my generation has a victim mentality. Okay, the changes, all the changes have been made by young people. So I'm the only Holocaust survivor, unfortunately, that instead of emphasizing my personal story, as compelling as it may be, it's a personal story. What I do, I emphasize how did it happen, because it happened step by step by step by step. People did not react in time, like even today, and it came to a point of no return.
I just have a question about that.
I want
Sorry,
you
if
to
I
tell
could.
him. I think I know your
I
question.
just have a question. We're living in a time now where we live in a country that has, was based on tolerance. I mean, we did have an ugly history with slavery and the oppression of the blacks, but for the most part, it's a tolerant society. Jews have come here for religious tolerance and thrived. But we see such an upsurge today. I mean, just, in our neighborhoods, but throughout the country of anti-Semitic attacks. Do you feel that that's happening in this country? That something like what happened in Europe in the 40s could happen here?
No. Personally, I don't believe that the Holocaust will happen again.
Okay.
Because of
Thank
the
God.
technology of today, nobody will be able to say, I did not know, I did not hear, I did not see. Everything is instant.
Fine.
Okay, genocide, yes, but not Holocaust.
But you
because
see what's
But
happening.
you say
in
nobody
New York
can say-
City.
nobody
because
can say no.
genocide is the murder of a group of people. It's made out of 2 words. Geno, which
And
means
side.
group,
And side. Homicide.
murder. Right. However, the Holocaust is the annihilation of a group of people. Remember one thing. They started with Europe. Once they were going to murder all of the European Jews.
They're gonna go. They're gonna. I mean, look,
No,
Rama
they-
was stopped in Egypt.
No, but they
Rama was
wanted-
stopped in Egypt because my parents were living in Egypt during that time. My parents were both born in Egypt during the war. My father was a little older than you were, but my mother was born during the war.
But what the Nazis wanted to do is to open up a museum. They were going to call it the Museum of the Extinct Jewish Race.
Right.
Very few people know that. When I'm talking about, for instance, 6 million, I cannot relate to it. It's a number.
Right.
Okay, but I'm saying if you would be on your feet and silent for 1 minute for every victim of the Holocaust, you would be on your feet and silent for 11 and a half years. That gives a different perspective for the young people to understand. They know that they would happen.
You have been to the Yad Vashem and you saw with the exhibits, the Hall of Children, which I always make sure to go and stand there. My mother forced me to take it to the Hall of Children always, to sit there even at the end with a wheelchair just to listen. What is your feeling about this? Is it a good place? Is it a teaching place? Or is it just a waste of our time, just somebody to go for a vacation and have a good smile?
It's a teaching place. On the other hand, you cannot force somebody to learn. Okay, so it's a personal choice. I use the same presentation, okay, with fourth graders and with adults. And people ask me, how can you do that? And I say, it's not what you say. It's how you say it, okay? And if you say it the right way, because I do not want for the kids to feel sad. I don't want to tell them stories that they would cry and everything else. That's not my point. It's to learn from it, so you can see the signs of today.
I got to do a quick commercial, and then we're going to catch up. We're going to do Burke's Barbershop. By the way, I see you don't have much hair, Sammy, so this commercial is not for you, but you could come with me. Burke's, I'm joking, Sammy, you're delicious. I told everybody how handsome he looks. You know, Sammy looks handsome.
Thank you.
Hello, Ezra, tell Sammy he looks handsome.
Sammy looks very handsome. And you just gave me his business card.
By the way, we're going to talk about, by the way, you guys, if you want to look up Sammy and talk to him or ask him to come to an event, Sammy, what's his website?
His website is Sammy Speaks, SAMISPEAKS.com.
SammySpeaks.com. Call him, be in touch with him. He'll come out to an event. This man is a wonderful, delicious guy. But we're going to talk about Burke's Barbershop, located at 108 Avenue R. You can reach Burke's Barbershop at 718-758-5187, 718-758-5187, or call or text or WhatsApp Burke personally to schedule your appointment at 347-845-9131. 347-845-9131. He's my official singing barber. He actually sings when he gives me a haircut. Singing barber of Heshy Tishler, Burke's Barbershop, located at 108 Avenue I. I'm not going to ask you to tell me the address.
Thank you.
I mean, what's the address?
It's on Avenue I. 108?
Good boy. 108 Avenue. And then we have Green Line Building Solutions, located at 202 Foster Avenue. Preservation, Development, Fire Department, Criminal Court, Department of Finance, ECB Settlements, Building Consulting, Violation Removal, Construction Management, Owner Compliance, Contracting, Licensed DOB for all your issues. And I was talking to Ezra before the show of how many people are in trouble that we help all the time, every day. Besides, I'm also their psychiatrist. 718-871-0382. Ask for me. I'm there. You can pop into 202 Foster Avenue. We don't charge for consultations. We try to guide you. We can help you or send you or even recommend you other people. 718-871-0382. 202 Foster Avenue, Green Line Building Solutions for all your professional contracting and building needs.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
So, I did ask this. I'm just going to want to back down to. You mentioned that you don't think that something like the Holocaust could happen again.
No.
But when you hear about all the upsurge in hate crimes, it's not just centered around us. Although anti-Semitism is obviously very personal to all three of us. There's an intolerance of each other in this country. If you're white, people they don't want, they're intolerant of us. Black people are intolerant of Asians or of Jews, and vice versa. There's such an intolerance of each other in this country. When you speak to the teenagers, especially, what's your message to them?
Well, first of all, I tell the young people, everybody, whoever I talk, please do not make any comparisons to the past.
Okay.
Times were different, attitudes were different. Okay, we did not have social media. The other thing is, I
But
emphasize
you
a
did
lot,
have media. You did have newspapers. You did have propaganda.
but not the way it is right now. Right now, they can put it in social media, they can put something. And we have to remember what Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda under Hitler, said, which is true today. A lie told long enough
It becomes believed.
becomes the truth.
Yes.
And this is what's happening right now, because in the media, the young people, they don't do the research. You heard, for instance, of a person. I normally don't use names. If you want, I'll use it, but normally I don't. You know who I'm talking about. She said, has following worldwide, millions of people, that the Holocaust is not about race.
Right.
Okay? The damage that that person has done is unreal.
I want you to tell people the name. Tell them.
Le Pen?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg, yes.
I don't care about her intentions. That's
Right.
not even important to me, why she said it or not. I'm not
Right.
even-
But the thing is, it's now
but
it
the
became so
word
believed.
and our Jewish leaders, the Jewish leaders are using the wrong words, perpetuating for false narratives. Let me give you two examples. May I?
Please.
Okay, let me give you two examples. Okay, our Jewish leaders, even in Israel, use the word West Bank.
Right.
It was coined by Jordan, west
Right.
of the
It's not-
Jordan
it's-
River.
It's Eastern Israel.
Okay. So the interesting part of it is, okay, just like Greeks are coming from Greece, Italians from Italy, Jews are coming from Judea. We have to use the word Judea and Samaria. Okay? When you use the word Judea and Samaria, subliminally, you are thinking this is our homeland, the rebirth of our homeland. When you use the word homeland, you cannot occupy. The word occupation does not count. When you use the word West Bank, subliminally, a lot of people assume that is occupation. Now, you don't like West Bank, use disputed territories, but don't call it. Call especially the Jews and the kids, and that's what I teach them. You must use the word Judea and Samaria. Okay, we have to be proud of who we are. The other thing, I'll give you an example, is I teach the young people about, because a lot of them, even in college, even students that had families going through the Holocaust, are totally clueless how it happened.
Yeah.
And I tell them, during the war, Jews died because we did not have a country. On Yom HaZikaron, we remember the people that died for us to have a country. And I also teach them about the importance of the state of Israel for the Jews in diaspora. Okay, in 2015, because of the violence in France, 8,500 Jews from France emigrated to Israel, made Aliyah to find a safe haven. And I am trying to teach not only the Jewish kids, but everybody, because we need allies, okay, what Israel is, the importance of the state of Israel, and to be proud.
Well,
to
we have
fight together.
thousands of Americans that go every year to immigrate to Israel and make Aliyah. Thousands.
Heshy,
Yeah.
I want to tell you something. There are many organizations that send the Jewish children to Israel. By the time they go there, and yes, beautiful, blah, 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 they cry, they laugh, whatever. I want to tell you something. It's too late. They have been indoctrinated. We have to teach them when they are very young. By the time they are going, it's too late. I was with a group of young people, high school students in Israel. And when I came back, and they were absolutely, okay, enjoyed everything. They had the time of their life. But when they went to the university, do you know which organization they joined? J Street, which is anti-Semitic.
So J Street is the most liberal, anti. It's a self-hate. It's J Street calls itself a Jewish organization. Is the most self-hating group there is, and their whole point is basically delegitimizing the state of Israel. And that's what J Street really is all about.
I want to, before we end our show, I want to ask you something. You're now American. You're a New Yorker. Me and Ezra hate de Blasio. We despise him.
You do?
We do.
Well, you don't have to hate him. He's not there anymore.
Well, he wants to run
He
again.
wants to come back. He wants to now run for Congress in the Jewish neighborhood to represent the Jewish community. My point is, we just went through a pandemic, and I'm not downplaying it. I do downplay because people should have taken care of better themselves. But my point is the way they treated us. I felt that they treated us like, and I'm not going to say the Holocaust, but they tried to control us. Do you feel that the way New York is, we're grown men. Look at you. You're 83 years old. You're a grandfather, a survivor, a speaker, a man who has accomplished so much in his life. Do you think they had a right to lock you down and tell you what to do and where to go? And I mean, is this right what they do? Do you think that this city is becoming totalitarian? What is the word?
Totalitarian.
Totalitarian, whatever it is.
Totalitarian.
Who cares? Whatever it is that you say. And also, we don't want de Blasio back. But why aren't the Jews standing up and saying, "Hey, Mr. de Blasio, we don't want you"? What kind of mentality do you think us New Yorkers?
I'm going to repeat what I said before. My generation has a victim mentality. Okay? And I want to tell you that we have to remember the enemy is us.
Wow. You hear that? The enemy is us. They should go vote. You should remember what this pig de Blasio
And they will
did.
not. And they will not. They will. You can
Yeah.
put a gun to a liberal Jew.
Yeah,
You can put a gun to his head or her head, and they will not vote for a Republican.
they-
That's what I said this last week.
It's not
I
the
said-
Republican.
No, he's
I
right.
don't care
Sammy's
Republican.
100%.
But somebody that is
They're-
not liberal Democrat.
Right. I've said this. I said this last week. I'll repeat it. I think it was last week. Our biggest enemy is ourselves. The liberal Jew, the liberal mind of the liberal thinking Jew is our biggest enemy.
I don't think it's the regular man. I think that
It's the
people-
liberal-
The liberals,
It's the people on top.
the intelligentsia.
Heshy, the guys
It's the intelligentsia.
the guys on top can't do anything without the support of the voters.
But they trick
You
us.
go
They
to
buy
college.
us.
You go
Look-
to college
look at-
campus. You go to college campuses. The professors who are doing the biggest brainwashing have Jewish last names.
No, but
That
my
is
point
correct.
is, but all
That
your
is correct.
all your politicians are nowhere to be found.
They
When
don't
it
need to be
comes-
found.
When election
They don't
season
need to be
comes
found.
around, they come give you carnivals. They send you rebate monies.
Heshy, but
They
the-
give out free little food packages, which we do all year round. So people say, "Oh my God, we
Yes.
know him. He has a name." I said, "Why are you going to vote for Felder? What has he done for you? This is a guy I'm going to run against." "Oh, he's been there a long time. He has a name." I said, "That's not what I asked you." I said, "What has he done for you and the community?"
Agreed, but I think we're making a little different statement. I think what Sammy's saying, I think what I'm trying to say, is we're becoming our own worst enemies.
We have a man who kept our parks closed that I had to fight with, who arrested me. We had another guy, Penny Ringel, his liaison, who's a Hasidic Jew, who told me that I will not be allowed to help the Jewish kids and keep the schools open or we'll go to jail. And here is a man getting up to run in the Jewish community, and people are telling me, well, I'm his friend. I don't understand it. I'm very disappointed. Anyways, my friend Sammy, you have been a wonderful guest. You look wonderful. I can't wait to. I hope you're going to come with me now because I want to talk to you about tonight is Lag Ba'omer and we have campfires here. I want you to see it before I send you home. Everybody, thank you for joining me. Ezra, you've been a great guest. I
Thank
hope you
you.
have a great night with your kids tonight.
Thank you, you too.
He should have. Ezra didn't come to the Greek festival. He should have come. That's where I met Sammy there, right? Sammy, was that a beautiful festival?
Correct.
We had a great time there. Sammy, say goodbye and give us a parting thought.
Okay, I want to wish all the listeners, happy
Lag Ba'omer.
Chag Ba'omer, okay, and have a wonderful life, be blessed, and let's remember that Am Yisrael Chai,
Amen.
okay?
Amen.
In every generation, they try to destroy us, but we are Kashei Oref, we don't give in.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
And watch, we'll be seeing you again next week. I don't think you'll be here, Ezra, next
I
week.
won't be. My niece is getting married. It's also my anniversary, so I'll be taking a week
Happy
off.
anniversary.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Good
All
night.
right.